Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. We begin with Iraq, where the head of Iran's elite Quds force, Major General Qasem Soleimani, has been killed in a U.S. airstrike on Baghdad's international airport. The pre-dawn raid killed 8 people, including Iraqi militia commander Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. General Soleimani and other officials were leaving Baghdad airport in 2 cars when they were hit by missiles. In a statement, the Pentagon said the attack was ordered by President Donald Trump. It said the raid was aimed at deterring future attacks allegedly being planned by Tehran. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has warned the US of a hard retaliation. President Hassan Rouhani has said Soleimani's assassination will make Tehran more decisive in its resistance to the US. In a related development, the assassination of Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani has divided the U.S. Congress, drawing praise and criticism. Democrats criticized the killing, while Republicans were mostly united in their praise for President Trump.
Senators Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and Marco Rubio backed Trump, saying it sends a strong message to Iran. Senator Bernie Sanders called it a dangerous escalation which brings the Middle East closer to another disastrous war. Democrat presidential frontrunner Joe Biden said no American would mourn Soleimani's death, but warned of consequences for such a high-profile assassination. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Tom Udall called it a reckless move. Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton said it could worsen an already tense situation. Senator Chris Murphy claimed the U.S. president did not have the legal authority to order the strike without congressional approval.
Meanwhile, around the world, governments have expressed concern and alarm over the killing of Major General Qasem Soleimani. Iraq's Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi condemned the attack, calling it an act of aggression on the country and breach of its sovereignty that will lead to war. Iran's major allies, Lebanon's Hezbollah and the Syrian government, called the raids treacherous American aggression. Russia's foreign ministry said the killing of Soleimani will escalate tensions in the Middle East. China has expressed concerns and called on Iran and the US to show restraint. France said the assassination has made the world more dangerous. Moving on to North Korea, which says any attempt to infringe on Pyongyang's survival will be met with an immediate and powerful strike. State media said North Korea is now engaging in an all-out effort to build up its national defense capability. Earlier, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper called on Kim Jong-un to exercise restraint. He said the best path forward is still a political agreement on denuclearizing North Korea. Esper said a resumption of large-scale military exercises with South Korea remains an option. South Korea's main opposition, the Liberty Korea Party, said its senior officials will visit the U.S. next week to discuss tensions. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned Turkey against any foreign interference in Libya. This comes after Turkish parliament approved the deployment of troops to support Tripoli's government of national accord. In a telephone conversation with President Tayyip Erdogan, Trump said interference in Libya will complicate the situation. In a joint statement, Greece and Cyprus condemned Ankara's decision, saying it poses a serious threat to stability in the region. The Arab League also rejected Turkey's growing involvement in Libya. Egypt called the decision a blatant violation of international law and UN Security Council resolutions. Earlier, Turkey's parliament approved a bill to send troops to Libya in support of the UN-recognized government. The motion was passed by 325 votes to 184. Now we move on to the UN, where Security Council will meet behind closed doors today to discuss an increase in violence in Syria's Idlib. The meeting comes at the request of Britain and France, supported by the US. In a telephone call, US President Donald Trump and Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan agreed on the need for de-escalation. On Thursday, UNICEF Executive Director Henrietta Fore called for an immediate cessation of hostilities in northwest Syria. Diplomats say they hope the session will discuss the reauthorization of cross-border UN aid. The United States has sanctioned Cuba's Revolutionary Armed Forces Minister Leopoldo Sintra Frías. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accused Sintra of human rights violations and cited his support for Venezuela's president. Pompeo said Sintra's ministry is responsible for Cuba propping up Nicolas Maduro's regime in Venezuela. Washington's top diplomat said the ministry was guilty of torturing Cubans for their anti-Maduro ideas. The sanctions also prevent Sintra's children from entering the U.S. Sintra is a career military officer who joined Fidel Castro's rebel army in 1957. A Brussels court has suspended the extradition of former Catalan pro-independence leader Carles Puigdemont. The leader, with fellow politician Toni Comín, is wanted in Spain on charges of sedition for a failed independence bid in 2017. The court ruled in favor of Puigdemont and Comín, highlighting their immunity as the members of the European Parliament. Spain's interim Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has been backed by Catalonia's largest separatist party to form a coalition government. MPs from the party will abstain in a confidence vote next week, paving the way for a new term for Sánchez. In return, the Sánchez-led Socialist Party has agreed to negotiate the future of Catalonia. 18 people have died after a Sudanese military transport plane crashed in the state of West Darfur. Army spokesperson Amir Mohammed Al-Hassan said the aircraft crashed 5 minutes after takeoff from an airport in the state capital of Al Janana. The spokesperson said the victims include 7 crew members, 3 judges and 8 others, 4 of them children. Al-Hassan said the plane was in Al Janana to deliver aid to an area hit by recent deadly tribal fighting. He said there is an investigation to determine the cause of the crash. Al Janana has seen severe tribal violence in recent weeks, which has claimed 48 lives. 4 Sri Lankan Air Force officers died in a plane crash in the country's mountainous town of Habutale. Military spokesperson Chandana Wickramasinghe says Y-12 plane crashed after takeoff from the southern airbase of Viravila. Wickramasinghe said the plane was headed to Ratmatlana when it crashed 200 kilometers east of Colombo. The official said all 4 crew members were killed. He said the cause of the crash is being investigated. It is the worst air crash in Sri Lanka since 5 crew members died in December 2014. 22 people have been killed in a traffic accident in Myanmar's southeastern Kayin state. Officials say the collision between a passenger bus and a car on the Miyawadi Kokerek Ejia road has injured 10 others. They said there were survivors from the car, while 15 people died in the bus, which fell into a ravine. A rescue operation to pull surviving passengers from the bus is underway. The Kenyan army claims it has killed 4 al-Qaeda-linked al-Shabaab fighters in Lamu County, close to the Somali border. The move is in a response to al-Shabaab attack on a bus traveling from Mombasa that left 3 people dead and dozens wounded. In a statement, the Kenyan military said it captured 1 fighter alive. Lamu County in Kenya has seen a spate of attacks by Somalia-based militants because of its close proximity to the border. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Welcome back. The death toll from flooding has risen to 43 after torrential rains caused landslides in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta. Disaster management officials warn the death toll may rise. Officials said 30,000 people have been forced from their homes by rivers flooding at least 90 neighborhoods. The city's main airport has suspended operations. The authorities have decided to attempt cloud seeding in a bid to prevent further rainfall. Australians are bracing themselves for worsening conditions with raging bushfires forcing widespread evacuations of people. The Navy has begun picking up thousands of people stranded on the country's east coast. The Bureau of Meteorology has warned of the danger becoming extreme, with strong winds and temperatures hitting 40 degrees Celsius. At the peak of the summer holiday period, tens of thousands of tourists are leaving the country. Victoria has declared a state of disaster for the first time in its history, while a state of emergency has been announced in New South Wales. At least 20 people have died so far and 28 remain missing. Communication and transport infrastructure has been paralyzed in Victoria, hampering the evacuations. The US says it will expand the scope of a program that returns non-Mexican migrants and asylum seekers to their country. Washington has already sent more than 56,000 people to Mexico under the Migrant Protection Protocols program. The majority of the people are Central Americans applying for US asylum. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security said the program has been an extremely effective tool. But immigration advocates say the initiative exposes migrants to violence in Mexico and restricts their ability to seek protection in the U.S. President Donald Trump has made a crackdown on immigration a major focus of his first term in office and re-election bid. The United Nations Security Council has appointed 5 non-permanent members for the next 2-year term. Estonia, Niger, St. Vincent, Tunisia and Vietnam have now taken up their roles in the council. Of the 5 newly elected members, Estonia and St. Vincent have never served on the Security Council. Kuwait, Peru, Poland, Cote d'Ivoire and Equatorial Guinea have just left. The 15-member council have 5 permanent members: Britain, China, France, Russia and the US. Security Council powers include setting up peacekeeping operations and international sanctions. Greece, Israel and Cyprus have signed a pipeline transit deal to supply natural gas to Europe. The supply accounts for 10% of the EU's total annual gas needs. The project has a budget of over $6.5 billion and will stretch over 2,000 kilometers. The East Mediterranean pipeline will run from Israel's Levantine Basin offshore gas reserves to Cyprus, Crete and the Greek mainland. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said the agreement sealed the resolve for a strategic connection between the countries. Aviation giant Airbus has overtaken rival Boeing to become the world's biggest plane maker. Boeing's 737 MAX jets have grounded since March last year, following 2 crashes within 5 months. The grounding has already cost the company more than $9 billion. Airbus delivered a record 863 aircraft in 2019, while Boeing only sold 345. The best-selling single-aisle 737 MAX is critical to Boeing's operations, representing nearly 60% of its value. Boeing faces several compensation claims from victim families and airlines hit by the grounding. Stock markets across Europe have slumped on the back of the renewed Middle East crisis after a US airstrike killed the top Iranian commander in Iraq. Investors have offloaded major positions after weighing the impact of the crisis. Frankfurt's DAX is trading nearly 1% lower. The CAC 40 in Paris and London's FTSE 100 have lost a fraction amid the flaring tensions. In Asia, Tokyo's Nikkei 225 led the losses, closing 0.75% lower. Hong Kong's Hang Seng lost a fraction, while shares in HSBC declining 0.75%. Another weather situation from around the globe. That's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.